On January 21, 2025, the President of the United States stood in the White House alongside three of the most powerful men in the technology industry and announced the most ambitious construction project in the history of computing. $500 billion, 10 gigawatts of power, hundreds of thousands of jobs, and a deadline that would make most engineers go pale. This is Project Stargate, and it is reshaping the physical landscape of America in real time. To understand what Stargate actually is, you first have to understand the problem it is trying to solve. Artificial intelligence, the kind that powers tools like ChatGPT, that writes code, generates images, analyses medical scans, and increasingly makes decisions that affect millions of people, does not run on thin air. It runs on chips, enormous quantities of them, packed into data centers that consume extraordinary amounts of electricity, cooled by industrial-scale systems that themselves require massive infrastructure. Training a single large AI model can consume more electricity than a small town uses in a year, and the demand is only accelerating. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, has seen its compute requirements roughly double every year. The infrastructure that exists today cannot keep pace. Stargate is the attempt to build the infrastructure that doesn't exist yet, before the need for it becomes a crisis. The joint venture was announced by OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and Abu Dhabi's sovereign investment fund, MGX. SoftBank's chairman Masayoshi Son holds the role of chairman of Stargate. Sam Altman from OpenAI has operational responsibility. The $500 billion commitment is the largest single infrastructure investment pledge in the history of the technology industry, larger than the GDP of many countries. It is not a single project. It is a network of data centers being built simultaneously across the United States and internationally, all dedicated to providing the computing power that OpenAI needs to train and run the next generation of AI models. The first and most advanced site is in Abilene, Texas. Stargate 1, as it is officially known, consists of 10 data center buildings on a campus that, when complete, will consume 1.2 gigawatts of power. To put that in perspective, that is enough electricity to power roughly 1 million homes, all going to a single cluster of buildings in the Texas plains. By late 2025, more than 6,400 construction workers were on site. The first two buildings were already operational, with NVIDIA's GB200 AI chips, the most advanced and expensive chips ever produced for AI training, already installed and running. OpenAI's engineers began running early training workloads on Abilene hardware, while the remaining 8 buildings were still under construction around them. The Abilene campus alone is a construction feat worth examining. Each building covers roughly 500,000 square feet. The power infrastructure required is the equivalent of a major industrial facility. The cooling systems needed to prevent thousands of chips from overheating operate at a scale that industrial engineers describe as one of the most complex mechanical challenges in modern data center design. Heat is the enemy of AI chips. The denser the computing, the more heat is generated, and the more sophisticated the cooling systems need to be. Some of the techniques being deployed at Stargate sites, including liquid cooling systems that pipe chilled water directly to the chips themselves, are borrowed from supercomputing and have never before been deployed at this scale in commercial data centers. But Abilene is only the beginning. By September 2025, OpenAI announced 5 more data center sites, taking the total planned capacity to nearly 7 gigawatts and over $400 billion in committed investment. Sites in Shackelford County and Milam County in Texas, Lordstown in Ohio, Doña Ana County in New Mexico, and a location in Wisconsin joined the Stargate network. Then in October 2025 came the Michigan announcement, a 1 gigawatt campus in Saline Township, developed by Related Digital and Oracle, dubbed The Barn after a historic red barn preserved at the entrance to the 250-acre site. Michigan's governor described it as the largest economic project in the state's history. The power challenge is perhaps the most underappreciated aspect of Stargate. Building the data centers is one problem. Powering them is another. The US electricity grid was not designed for this. A single Stargate campus consuming 1 gigawatt of power requires a dedicated power supply infrastructure that in some cases takes longer to build than the data center itself. Utility companies across America are in a race to build new power lines, substations, and generation capacity fast enough to feed the construction boom. In Texas, ERCOT, the state's electricity grid operator, is handling requests for new grid connections at a rate it has never seen before. Some Stargate sites are being built with dedicated on-site power generation, including natural gas plants and plans for small modular nuclear reactors, because waiting for grid connections would delay the project by years. The international dimension of Stargate adds another layer of scale. The United Arab Emirates became the first international Stargate location, with G42, Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI announcing a UAE data center partnership in May 2025, with the facility expected to open in 2026. Sites in the United Kingdom and Norway are in development. This is not simply commercial expansion. The geopolitics of AI infrastructure are becoming as significant as the geopolitics of oil. Where the computing power is located determines where AI development happens, where the economic benefits flow, and to some extent, where the regulatory and security frameworks apply. The controversy around Stargate has been as large as the project itself. Elon Musk, whose own AI company xAI is Stargate's most direct competitor, publicly questioned whether the financial backing was real. Bloomberg reported in August 2025 that as of that date, the full initial $100 billion had not yet been deployed, and that market uncertainty was slowing the financing. OpenAI and its partners pushed back strongly, pointing to the operational Abilene facility as physical proof that the project was moving. The debate over whether Stargate is a genuine $500 billion infrastructure commitment or an announcement that will fall short of its headline number has followed the project since day one. The Abilene buildings are real, the chips are real, the construction workers are real. The full $500 billion is, by anyone's accounting, still years away from being spent. What is not in question is the scale of what is already being built. As of 2026, Stargate represents the fastest large-scale data center construction program ever undertaken. It has created tens of thousands of construction jobs. It has transformed the economies of small Texas towns into boom towns. It has triggered a wave of competitor investment, with Meta committing $7.5 billion to its own Hyperion data center in Louisiana, and Amazon pledging $15 billion to a new center in Indiana. The AI infrastructure race has become a construction race, and Stargate fired the starting gun. The comparison that gets made most often is to the Manhattan Project, the US government's Second World War program, to build the atomic bomb. The comparison is made not because the technologies are equivalent, but because the ambition is similar, a concentrated, urgent, nationally significant effort to build something that didn't exist before, because the stakes of not building it were considered too high. Whether Stargate's backers are right about the stakes is a question historians will answer. What is already clear in 2026 is that they are building at a speed and scale that the world has not seen in technology infrastructure before. And if AI is indeed the defining technology of the coming decades, then the buildings going up right now on the Texas plains may turn out to be among the most consequential construction projects of the 21st century. Subscribe to stay up to date on every development in the world's most ambitious building race. We'll see you in the next one.